Hi, Elizabeth.
We're back.
We're back. We are here again, and we continue conversations at a time when the whole world is in dire needs of wisdom. In our earlier episodes, we tried to describe this period as societal sudden organizational isolation, where everybody is getting more and more isolated, and that comes with some unique challenges when it comes to how people manage their emotions. And for that, hi, Anat.
Hi, Hakan. Hi, Elizabeth. Great to be with you from
you. And I'm delighted to have Anat with us. We have already hosted her in California State University, Sacramento, in our film festival as our virtual discussant. So now Anat is here today in our Organizational Wisdom Studio episode to talk about some important aspects of what we've been going through.
Anat, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to talk about some of your work and how it sort of folds with where we are right now. And just generally share your thoughts. Can you just share with everyone where you are physically and what you're doing these days?
Physically, I am in my house. My house is located in Haifa. Haifa is a city in northern Israel. And I am in Haifa because I work now at Technion, which is the Israel Institute of Technology in the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management.
I'm going to jump right in. You are an early leading scholar on emotions in the workplace and influential in establishing the concept of emotional labor. And you're now focusing on emotion regulation. Can you just give me like the short form of what that is?
And emotion regulation has to do with the fact that even though your employer tells you this is what you need to express, you still bring your own emotions to the workplace. It's not like we used to say, what am I supposed to do? Check them out at the door, like with my umbrella? And of course, you can't do that. You're a human being. You bring your emotions wherever you go. And so if you're going to express emotions that your employer wants you need to regulate what it is that you are expressing, and that usually also means regulate what it is you're feeling, because otherwise you're going to be torn by that conflict. And there's a whole stream of research showing the cost of that conflict between what you feel and what you express, which is the cost of emotion regulation.
And Anat, all of that is now happening to a great extent within boxes. We are isolated, and we are trying to make all these processes through our little boxes that through which we are trying to connect with each other. So I'm really curious to hear about your insights about what all that research now, how that speaks to our current circumstance right now.
Well, I think it certainly helps explain our maybe frustration, maybe helplessness, because we're thrown into this new situation that we totally are not familiar with and feel totally confused about because we don't know what the rules are. We don't know. I was thinking, and you might have seen somewhere along my career, I did for about 5 years, I studied dress and how people dress for work. And one of the things I remember noticing, and you may have seen this is a cute anecdote, that youth people, Walter Cronkite types, whatever they're called, they dress only from the waist up. They will often be in shorts or sneakers or, just very casual wear underneath their suit. And today, that's true for all of us. We all appear only from our shoulders up. We don't exist below that. And so a lot of our body.
I just read in the news that Walmart, the sales shirts is skyrocketing. And nobody buys pants anymore.
Exactly. That's exactly the thing, right? And in a way, I think that's very illustrative of the sort of constraints that we're all thrown into. We're thrown into we have a very narrow window, both for expressing ourselves and for reading other people and understanding what other people want and what other people are bringing to the situation and what's the right way to communicate with them.
This spatial area around us includes from the waist up, and then of course, I have plants behind me and various
backgrounds, the impressions.
Our backgrounds. And for many of us, this is an active choice. So I'm going to present both myself and this tiny space around me in a particular way to this particular audience, whoever it is I'm communicating with, whether it be family or colleagues.
And we have this whole literature on impression management, you know, and all of that literature has looked at various situations in which we try to make good impressions on other people. But doing that when you're constrained to just whatever the pixels that I have in my laptop or in my PC becomes really difficult. Now, I want to actually point out something that I see. I think it's positive, but in the literature or in scientific research, it's controversial. And that is what happens to people who have children. I see it with my graduate students that now all of a sudden when I'm talking to them and they're in their home, they will sometimes have their little kid sitting on their lap when they're talking to me. I was talking
can come in any minute, by the way. She's running around here, or my son.
She came and said, that's right. She came and said hello to us just before we started recording. And I find that very, very pleasant. I find that very personable, and it sort of gives me a more complete picture of the student. Of course, you can say that it's intrusive and it gets in the way of doing work and so on. But the plus side or the upside to it is that we get a full appreciation for the full person that's involved. I had a meeting, I just started a project about a week before this crisis erupted. And this woman is VP People Operations, which is, you know, very impressive VP people. And all of a sudden, when I have this meeting, she's sitting with a little girl on her knees and another little girl behind her. And we're still talking about the data that we're going to get, but that little girl is sitting and I see her hugging her daughters. And I thought that was so sweet. This integration, this home work integration, which of course can get tiring. And back to your question, emotion regulation is very tiring. It causes fatigue, it causes burnout, it causes people, it can cause stress. Unless you're able to accept the fact that you bring your full person to the situation, and whatever it is that you bring is what whoever you're talking to is going to have to accept. And I think
I imagine there are some individuals who will not benefit from this reveal.
Absolutely. There are people who will be hurt by it. And you know, you were mentioning, Elizabeth, the background, and I was thinking that as I was looking forward to our conversation, I thought, what about people who are not as fortunate as I am to have such a nice environment in which they live? You know, they have less money or less fortune or whatever, for whatever reason. Maybe they just had a fire in their house. It could be multiple reasons for why you don't feel you can present yourself. And then you get into the question, when I put you on mute or when I close the video, does that constitute, you know, absenteeism from work or being late to work because I turned the video on 5 or 10 minutes late? Now,
I was just going to say, so this world will have there'll be a whole list of new cues that we have to make decisions about and come to understand, and find we have to make some agreement about what these things mean at some point.
I fully agree. I think it will have to do a lot with how we set the norms, because right now there are no rules, as Anat has mentioned. But Anat, in your example of this executive and mother, so there might be also some opportunities there now that if you set the norms accordingly, because emotion regulation and emotional labor are all about norms. You try to follow the norms. So if you set the norms differently, so maybe people can start finding creative ways to integrate work and life, family boundaries in a way that they can get the job done and yet they don't feel overwhelmed. But it depends on how we set the norms as organizations, I guess.
Absolutely. As organizations, as managers, as you know, VP of People Operation needs to set the norms and the standards for what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Absolutely.
And Anat, in that brand new great research that you have been doing, you coined a new concept that I think directly speaks to not only service employees, but all the employees right now, and that is emotional load. So can you help us understand a little bit from what we are going through from that lens?
So thank you for bringing that up. So you and I share a love for people. I love the way people act and behave, and this is the most fun thing for me to do. Different people bring different requirements and bring different situations. And so a customer, so in a very mundane customer service situation like you know, cellular phone or television support, technical support, a customer who's just obnoxious is more difficult and brings more emotional load than a customer who only needs to settle their bill and pay and go home and leave you alone. So we have people bringing a different type of load than just the mere presence that they bring. And what I am trying to do now in my current work in this concept is say that when you are managing or planning a system, whatever system you're looking at, you need to take into account what energy people bring in. Do they bring positive energy, which would be what we call positive emotional load, or do they bring in difficult, depleting energy, which would be negative emotional load that would slow you down? I'm sure you feel it today, and I think all of our audience will feel that. After I have a conversation with somebody through Zoom, which has been a very loaded conversation, very confusing, I will need more time to relapse, to go back, to recover my energy and move on to other things. I can't move immediately on to a new thing. It takes some recovery.
So what do you suggest to employees, how they prioritize different messages and different channels? Like what can employees do in the midst of all this emotional load? In
this crisis that we're all in our isolation, we should all look for multiple avenues for communication, which allows, and I'm going to go back to the acronym that you created in your own little video where you said ICU. I like that. I really like that. The ICU, right? Which was sort of
interact, clarify, utilize.
Interact, clarify, right? And utilize. Interact, clarify, and utilize. So interact, we must. I am totally supportive of the idea that we must look for multiple ways to interact with all the people who are important to us. But we should not assume that one medium is the best medium for all these interactions. Even if we're limited, there's still multiple media. And we shouldn't assume that whatever we understood from the interaction is the absolute golden truth. The person may have meant something else, which is why we want to clarify. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so, then you used you for utilize rituals or something like that. I would encourage you to change that to utilize multiple channels.
Good, thank you. Our concept is improving.
Exactly.
Thank you so much from both of you today. Thank you so much.
Really thank you for being with us, and our goal is to continue these conversations by inviting other people, and we have been so fortunate to start getting responses from the leading scholars in the world to continue this conversation. So thank you so much for being our first guest, which is a historical.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for initiating all this. This is wonderful. And we will keep me posted on what comes up so that I can listen, okay?
I will, of course. And I will not email. I will send you a text.
Good.
Lovely.
Thank you. Well, diversify. Take care. Bye-bye.